Talking defense and barbecue next.
You are Locked On Nebraska, your daily Nebraska Cornhuskers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Good morning, and thanks for making Locked On Nebraska your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, welcome everybody. It's Tuesday on the Locked On Nebraska podcast. Connor Happer, Mitch Sherman with you. I'm from 1620 The Zone. Mitch is from The Athletic. We're all gearing up for football season around here, and Nebraska is doing so with a little bit of hunger was a word that was used quite a bit on Monday with a variety of defensive coaches and assistants. Mitch, good morning to you. How are we doing?
Good morning. I'm doing well. No dog barking today. Yesterday, after the pod, I checked the comments, and there were some people who were upset about the dog that was barking during the first segment of the show. I'm sorry. He's a dog.
What are you gonna
Sometimes they
do?
bark. There's nothing I could do. He's in a different position today. So the backstory there is that the dog had knee surgery and has to be contained in a small space because he's too dumb to know how to take care of himself. So he was with me near the podcasting area and wanted to be in a different place. So he was barking. I have contained him in a different area as we go today. So that will not be an issue.
Okay, excellent. Well, we're going to hold you to that. We'll see what happens. Now, it gets even worse so, if all of a sudden people start hearing it in the background. We'll see what happens.
It could happen. It's possible, but it would be from a farther away
point.
Yeah.
All right. So defense day yesterday, John Butler talking. We'll get to some of the things that he had to say a little bit later on in the show about the way he wants his defense to play. But like I said yesterday, the word of the day was hunger. There are some hungry younger guys who were coming up and trying to make some moves on the depth chart. There's also literally some hungry people. Coach Terry Bradden, the defensive line coach, he was asked a little bit about Kansas City and all of those things yesterday, but mostly we wanted to play you this when he was asked, or I guess he wasn't even asked. He just kind of he was asked about restaurants that he would like to go to.
When you say we'll
assess
this.
Yeah, when you ask about Kansas City, you usually just ask what's your favorite barbecue joint. But in this case, it was what's your favorite restaurant, and he did indeed go to a barbecue joint.
You may not have time, but if there's a restaurant you want to get back to if you're in Kansas City, any recommendation you have for us?
Oh, you trying to get me in trouble? But I'm gonna say it. I'm a Gates man. No sauce, all barbecue. And I hope y'all try some Gates if y'all come now. I appreciate y'all time. Thank y'all so much.
I like the volume at which he said that. That's my favorite part, I think.
It was the most enthusiasm that we have heard, I think, in all of the preseason from anybody talking about anything. Terry Bradden talking about Gates BBQ. I feel like this is maybe like the most important thing that's happened in all of preseason camp this month because, and I am not being serious, but Nebraska fans will be descending on Kansas City next week, like by the tens of thousands. There will be much barbecue consumed, and people need to know where to go. Terry Bradden is a large man who coaches other large men. He has worked the past 8 years in Kansas City, and he just came out hard, Connor, in support of one barbecue joint.
It's funny, but I guess I don't know. I don't know what the percentage of people who are going to this game who frequent Kansas City. I'm in Kansas City several times a year. It feels like I feel like, so I don't need Rex. You know what I mean? I don't know how other people do it. I assume there's a lot of Royals and Chiefs fans in the Nebraska fan base. I'm sure you have your things that you do. I wonder. I wonder if just all these places, especially Gates, now that Terry Bradden talked about it, are just going to be crawling with Nebraska fans on Wednesday and Thursday. I guess we'll see.
I think Terry upped the business for Gates a bit next Thursday, maybe even into Friday if Nebraska fans are happy and want to stay around in Kansas City. Yeah, I mean, Gates is Gates a place that can handle an influx of
Yes.
Nebraska fans? I mean,
Yeah.
right? They're going to get him through the line, right?
Yeah, there's also, well, that's kind of their thing. How may I help you? And if you don't have your order, you better get out of there. So yeah, and then there's like several locations. So there's that part too. If everybody went to Gates, I think Gates would be all right.
Okay. I mean, I'm not going to go as far as Terry did. Like I'm preferential to barbecue when you eat in Kansas City, but I don't have that place. Some people are very passionate about one barbecue place over the other. I like lots of different Kansas City barbecue. So I'm not going to use this platform to endorse one Kansas City barbecue place, but I think it's a discussion and topic that we can get into a little more next week as the game gets closer. Are you prepared, Connor, to come out in support of one barbecue place? Or
no, I generally agree with you. Like I've tried to experience most, if not all of them over a long period of time now. I'll say this, I usually end up at Q39 in Westport, or just on the outskirts of Westport there. The original one, just because it's easy, you could make reservations and they serve you pretty quick and you sit down, you get in and out of there. It's not like a walk up, wait in a line situation. So I usually end up there, but you can't go wrong. Like I don't need anybody out there getting barbecue shamed or anything like that. Like
we're not going to do that here.
Do you think Kansas City can handle it? Or at least they better be able to handle it. I mean, they're hosting like a World Cup match next year. So I think the however many Nebraska fans are in town will be able to sink right in.
Yeah. All right. My plan is to go very early in the day on Thursday, get out of Nebraska at a bright and early hour, maybe dark and early hour, and get into Kansas City in time for lunch. So that may be the barbecue stop for me is on the way in before the game. I don't know if that is like ideal in the sense that the game is going to go past 11 p.m. And if you eat a big meal of barbecue at say like noon or 1, what exactly is going to happen at that point later in the day? But I may be
Whataburger.
Oh just no! Saying. I mean, yeah, I may be sleeping in the second half. We'll hope not. Wow. Actually, I thought the most important thing, the most interesting thing that was said on Monday at Nebraska media availability came from the defensive coordinator, John Butler. So we heard in all from Butler, from Bradden, Phil Simpson, who coaches the Jack linebackers, and then we heard from Keona Davis. We heard from Jordan Ochoa, who's one of those young Jack linebackers. Davis is a rising defensive lineman as a sophomore. And then we heard from Jamir Conn and Dasan McCullough and Marques. It's Marques, we were told by Nebraska's media relations staff. Marques, Watson-Trent. So a good sampling of defensive players. And Butler, you might expect, talked about the way Nebraska is going to play defense this year. Continued to talk about that. On Saturday after Nebraska's scrimmage, Matt Rule mentioned that there were too many penalties. And he said that he asked the Big Ten officiating crew that was on staff for the scrimmage to call it tight because he wanted his team to get work at avoiding flags. So John Butler was asked about the way that he handles that and how he coaches aggressiveness with this group. He said, quote, "We're going to play as aggressively as the officials allow us to play." He added that he learned that philosophy about defensive aggressiveness from Dave Merritt, the Chiefs defensive back coach who matched up against Butler. Well, didn't match up specifically against Butler, but was his counterpart in several meaningful games between the Chiefs and the Bills. And interestingly, Dave Merritt is the father of Dasan Merritt, the freshman linebacker who is now coached by John Butler.
Yeah, I mean, he said it yesterday, and he said that Dave was Dawson's son. He screwed that one up, but that's okay. We knew exactly what he meant. I love it. Like all this stuff about the defense being more aggressive. You don't have to make that a conversation about if they're going to be good or not. But I do at least like the mentality and the way that they're going to approach it. I just think it makes a lot of sense for this team, and it fits. If you really start creating the puzzle piece, the puzzle board, I think Nebraska, going to have an opportunity to score quite a few more points this year on offense than it has been the last 2 years. Maybe be a little bit more explosive in that category, and defensively, I think you could probably afford to take some risks. I think, Butler mentioned that in the scrimmage on Saturday that they let up a few big plays, and some of that is just, being in the right spot and all that stuff. I think it's going to happen in a defense like this. You might have to get used to it, but I do think people will really enjoy. And he was specifically talking about corners and defensive backs being up in the grills of wide receivers. So I think people like watching that style of defense, and make them call penalties. And I'm totally on board with that. If they get penalties, then they can adjust from there. But you don't know until they call it.
I think what he's saying is they're going to push the envelope on defense. Yeah. They're going to try to take it right up to the line of what they can do. So I asked him as a follow-up to that if that's there's a different strategy involved when you're dealing with NFL players, because he's using an NFL model here, and this is something that he learned from Merritt and then took into his style with the Bills and last year at Nebraska as the secondary coach. But I think NFL players are going to be able to take that instruction and implement it more smoothly. Hey, go as far as the officials will allow you to go, and you can process that, and you can go out quickly from one series to the next and alter your aggressiveness so that you don't get called for flags. I don't know if that's as easy to do with young defensive backs or even older defensive backs in college. So we'll find out. This very well, 4 games into the year, might be a defense that we're talking about. Like, the biggest issue that we see is that they're getting called for flags. That that aggressiveness is something that they're going to have to learn to properly handle as the season goes along. You don't want them to be overly aggressive.
Yeah, I don't know. I would rather be overly aggressive than not aggressive at all, or conservative. Yeah, like, sure. I mean, I just think, I think that's an easy adjustment to make, frankly. Like, I think you can really decide in a game how it's being called, and then sort of go from there. I think the problem with the defense, from what it sounds like, has been a consistent theme throughout camp. Like, if there's a thing that crops up, it's going to be getting beat on explosive plays. And like I said, I think you're going to take some of that with just the style in which they play, but I think that matches and it fits exactly what they're trying to do. So it doesn't surprise me to hear him say it. And I like the attitude for sure.
Yeah, I think we're at the play. I don't know if it's as easy to adjust on the fly as he may be painting it to be. We'll find out, and we'll find out if this defense is good at that. There are a lot of veteran players in the secondary. We're talking mainly about the secondary here, with the aggressiveness on sticking to receivers. So the one thing they have going for them is that there is experience and age back there in the secondary. So I think at this point of camp, like, we're not stretching, but we're looking for reasons, both with the offense and the defense, to perhaps predict where the struggles are going to come. So we need to get to a game to see what it's going to be like.
Agreed.
Yeah. All right. We heard from, as I mentioned, a number of players on Monday in camp, or it's now like the preseason, but no longer camp. Splitting hairs there. However, there was something that happened on Friday last week that we have not yet discussed on this show that needs to be addressed. That is coming up next. Right now, a message from Prize Picks. Prize Picks is back. It is the daily fantasy platform that lets you turn your football predictions into real rewards. The preseason is heating up. In some cases, it is about over, and college football is on the way. Along with pro football, the NFL is here. Whether you've got your eye on a big-name quarterback or a breakout running back, Prize Picks makes it easy to get in the game. I'm ready to see Saquon Barkley, Jamar Chase, Lamar Jackson. You can have all of them on your side with Prize Picks. It's simple to play. Just pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections. And if you get your picks right, you could cash in and win up to 2,000 times your money. Prize Picks puts their members first, so all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. Download the Prize Picks app today. Use the code LOCKEDONCollege to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONCollege to get $50 in lineups after your first $5 play. Prize Picks, run your game.
And I want to tell you a little bit about Drip Drop. That's right, folks. If you're trying to stay on top of your routine, whether that's workouts, long days on campus, staying focused through back-to-back classes, hydration is where it all begins. You got to start that at the top of your day. Drip Drop is doctor-developed and scientifically proven for fast hydration. It uses the perfect balance of sodium electrolytes and glucose. I always get that word wrong. Glucose to help your body absorb fluids quickly, delivering 3 times the electrolytes and half the sugar of a leading sports drink. The thing is, in my experience, refreshing as well. Why not start your day off with a little bit of that instead of your normal glass of ice water? Or if you're out on the golf course or something like that, I did this summer. Just throw a couple drip drops back and you are good to go, and you're doing it at a high level. Right now, Drip Drop is offering Locked On listeners 20% off of your first order. Head to dripdrop.com and use the promo code LOCKEDONCollege. Dripdrop.com, promo code LOCKEDONCollege for 20% off. Stock now before the heat hits you hard.
All right, welcome back. Segment 2 on this Tuesday, Locked On Nebraska podcast. All right, as I mentioned before the break, we have not discussed something that happened that was very big in the Nebraska football world on Friday. We'll definitely have time to get more into this as the weeks and months come in the future, because this is a player who I am about to unveil that is young in terms of his football experience. Torrey Pittman III, a 2027 safety prospect from Omaha Central, committed to Nebraska on Friday. He is the number 17 rated prospect nationally in his class, the number 1 safety in the country, a 5-star recruit according to the 24/7 Sports composite ranking, second now in the class of 27 to commit to Nebraska after the quarterback Trey Taylor of Chicago's Carmel Catholic. Taylor, by the way, no slouch in the rankings either. He comes in as a 4-star and a top 70 player nationally. So the Huskers have a 5-star, Connor, according to some of the rankings. I think by the time we get well into this 25 season with the 26 players in their senior seasons, you're going to see Torrey Pittman as a 5-star across all of the recruiting platforms.
Yeah, lot to like from an athletic profile standpoint. I mean, obviously the recruiting services look at that and they say, yep, I agree with you from an athletic, a projection standpoint. So that's awesome. And he's from Omaha. We've talked a lot about in-state recruiting over the last couple cycles now, especially with the one that we're currently in. So I think that's a big deal to kind of get out in front of that topic as it comes up for 2027. Remember, like you said, Mitch, I mean, he's just a rising junior, but I want to see him play football, I think you're just starting to find that out. No knock against him or anything like that. You just have to see it happen because it hasn't happened much so far. So his junior year is a big year for him.
Tons of eyes now on Torrey Pittman around the Metro Conference, around the state of Nebraska after this happens. It's been so Nebraska, the state of Nebraska in high schools just doesn't produce 5-stars, which is why this becomes a big thing. If you're in Illinois, where Trey Taylor's from, or the state of Georgia or something like that, California, Texas, these things happen every year. But the last that I can recall was Baker Steinkuhler. 2008, who was a 5-star out of Lincoln Southwest, the defensive lineman. Amon Green, way back in the day when they didn't really have the star rankings the way that we look at them now. also from Omaha Central, was definitely in the 5-star category, but they're very rare in this state. So if one comes along and you're the home state school, the significance of getting a commitment from that player is huge. And now he gives Nebraska a defensive anchor in that 27 class to go with Trey Taylor as an offensive anchor or class-wide anchor. This is a great start for Matt Rule and his staff in building that class. And it can be something where they see it as perhaps like the breakthrough that they've been looking for, that they hope to get on the backs of Dylan Raiola when he was being recruited, and it just didn't materialize that way because of the way Raiola's recruiting went. Great players, and we've talked a lot about the players in Raiola's class, which are now sophomores at Nebraska, but that class didn't come with the 4 and 5 star, the slew of players in that category. So if that's something they can do in the future, with the momentum that they have going here in this 27 class and what might happen here in Nebraska hopes in this 25 season as these players begin to come on board, then that's a big step that Nebraska would like to take.
Yeah, agreed completely. Would you like to address the other thing that you set out to address here, or should we do that in the third segment?
Yeah, we can do it now.
All
right. So we've talked in the past about how sometimes my questions get too long. I think I got called out, and this is at the Nebraska press conferences. I think I got called out on that by a listener of this podcast several months ago. Might have been a mailbag topic. I don't really remember. So I put it in the past, and I shortened up my questions at press conferences. We've been going through lots of those media availabilities of late. Well, on Monday, I asked Terry Bradden a long question. Some of it wasn't even a question. It was a statement about Kansas City. And then there was a question at the end. And he just he nailed me. He asked me to repeat the question. He said, "Wow, that was a long question." I just wanted to say, never mind. Let's just move on.
That would have been funny. You should have just given up. Now that would have been funny.
I did shorten it up. He gave me an answer.
Yeah,
it was all very unsatisfying. I think I got a big head. I got fat and happy last week because I asked Archie Wilson a question that went wildly viral around the globe. So I just thought that I could do whatever I wanted and ask these long questions, and there would be no repercussions. So wow. I'll work to get better.
That's good on you for stepping up, for taking some ownership. And
that's what I'm doing.
I think the other thing here is that we get to do is we get to watch the tape, right? We get to watch it all back. It really hits harder when you hear yourself ask a long question. No, I don't have actually I do have the tape, but we're not going to play it on this podcast, but you have the ability to go back, do a little self-scouting, and it always hits harder when you hear yourself. It's like, wow, is that really how I sound? That I need to change everything about me immediately. So that's a really good thing.
I didn't go listen to it because I know it was way too long. Like in my mind, it felt like 15 seconds, and I think it was like a minute and a half.
It wasn't that bad. I've heard much longer questions. That's for sure.
Bradden was like, "Whoa, I don't even know what you're saying there, man."
He just was like, Can you repeat that? And then after he actually answered the question that you had in a more succinct manner, he was like, "I hope I answered your question."
And I was just dismayed at that point. I was like, it doesn't even matter. It doesn't matter. Like I'll take the L.
It's over.
Yeah. All right, I think now we can take a break, and then we'll come back and we'll hear from a couple of the players who were asked questions on Monday at Nebraska's media availability, specifically Jamir Conn and Marques Watson-Trent. That's coming up next.
All right. Connor here for Open Phone, a new friend of the pod. If you are running a business, every missed call is money left on the table. Think about the last time you needed a service. The first person didn't answer. Did you wait? Probably not. You moved on. That's why you need Open Phone, so you never miss an opportunity to connect with your customers. Open Phone is the #1 business phone system designed to streamline and scale your customer communications. Do you want to juggle 2 phones just to keep business and personal calls separate? Open Phone solve that instantly. Your whole team can share one number and respond to customers It's like a shared inbox in a way. No more, hey, who's going to take this? Who's handling this? See why over 60,000 businesses trust Open Phone. And they're offering Locked On listeners 20% off your first 6 months at openphone.com/lockedoncollege, openphone.com/lockedoncollege. They'll even port over your existing numbers for free. Open Phone, no missed calls, no missed customers. All right, welcome back. Connor Happer, Mitch Sherman with you here on a Tuesday. Yes, we got a couple clips here that we want to get to from practice. Jamir Conn has been a name that has started to get some more chatter about him.
I think it was buzz. I think buzz is the word.
Yes, buzz was the word. Where's all this buzz coming from? What's the buzz that you guys hear? I got to hear that buzz. That's what Matt Rule would have said if he was talking yesterday, but instead he said it on Saturday. It sounds like Jamir Conn has kind of risen up here throughout camp. He's had a nice fall camp for himself. So I figured maybe it's time that we hear from Jamir Conn a little bit on this podcast if he's going to factor into the defensive backfield. How about that?
Yep. He is a guy from Southern Illinois, came in via the portal, FCS school, and he played for Jamar Mosey at Lee Summit North in the Kansas City area in high school. We hear right now from Jamir Conn out of his Monday media availability.
I feel that way. We bring a different energy, a different mindset. Obviously, we came from FCS, not as much NIL, things of that nature, that whole realm. So I feel like we had to work for everything we've gotten. And that brings a different energy, a different mindset. It gives us a chip on our shoulder. It really gives us a chip that we feed off of every day, understanding that in our heads when we were there that we probably should have been at this level already, maybe overlooked, under-recruited, things of that nature. So just coming in with that mindset every day, understanding that we're not there yet, we're not at the NFL yet, and we still have a lot to work on. So, yeah.
That's him responding to a question about his background in the FCS, about the background of Jalen George, who's another defensive player that Matt Rule mentioned along with Conn on Saturday via the FCS. I threw in asking that question Andrew Marshall, who is from the FCS Idaho, set to start at Nebraska for corner. And you could even look at Watson-Trent. He came from an FBS school, the bigger level, but Georgia Southern is not Georgia. And all of these guys have something to prove at Nebraska. And Conn, I thought, laid it out nicely in talking about the way that he's approaching practice and headed into games next week.
I definitely have you kind of hear it in his voice there. I definitely have a soft spot for the FCS guy. I mean, Nebraska's had some success there with some FCS guys who have sort of come up and
Samari Toure.
Yeah, that's a great example. I mean, just continued their production at the Big Ten level. Now, hopefully, they're in a situation where they don't have to really lean on Jamir Conn. They'll maybe lean on Andrew Marshall a little bit, and they'll maybe lean on Marques Watson-Trent a little bit. But I love that they carry that sort of chip on their shoulder. I've said this since the transfer portal has been a thing, or the new edition of the transfer portal where you get immediate eligibility. Production is production. Like it might not translate 1-to-1 from FCS to FBS or from Sun Belt to Big Ten or whatever. But if a guy has gone out and made plays and it accumulates over time, chances are they're going to find a way to be able to do that at the next level too. And I think Nebraska's got several examples of that on their roster who you're looking at and you're thinking, is this really going to translate? My answer is usually yes, it probably will.
Yeah, Conn's a guy. My feeling is now that he's going to find his way on the field. You're not going to see him out likely on the first play of the opener next week, but I just think as the season goes on and things happen, players move up, players move down, injuries, adjustments, he's just going to be somebody who's going to find a way to get on the field more and more often as we get into September and October. I like the mindset. I like what he said about his style of play, like how he feels about coming from where he came from. Not a big guy at all, but he discussed like his strategy and how he covers receivers who are bigger than him. And sometimes there's nothing you can do. Like if you put him out there against Jeremiah Jones, Nebraska's 6'4", 225-pound freshman receiver, and they're in a one-on-one situation and it's a jump ball, like Conn's not going to win a lot of those, but he can make up for some of those shortcomings physically, his stature, with the aggressiveness that he brings to the field. So I think he's a good fit for John Butler in that way.
Yeah. And then another guy who really, I mean, we just mentioned him, but he doesn't check all the boxes in terms of size and what you would expect or want out of a Big Ten linebacker. Marques Watson-Trent, heard from him a little bit. He views himself in a little bit of a different way. But let's hear from him from Monday.
You have to be as truthful with yourself. So I've been this size my whole career. So I kind of out there, I kind of have a delusion that I'm 6'5", 250. So I just have no fear. So I just try to attack everything. I make sure I have great eyes, great technique. I'm playing with great pad level. And just getting to the ball, I feel like at the linebacker position, no matter how big, how fast you are, if you can get to the ball and produce and get the tackler down, the runner down, then you're doing your job. So I just make sure I'm executing at a high level. I'm making sure I'm communicating. I spend a lot of time in the film room, have to have a good IQ because there's a lot of different things that I don't have in my bag that I just have to add from those things. So I feel like having that IQ and being able to play football fast, as far as your mental standpoint, I feel like that's what I add to the room and that's what I bring out there. And I just love the game, honestly. There's nothing better than football out there for me. So just being able to enjoy every day and taking every day as a blessing and viewing it as a challenge, not a threat.
To me, he's a guy that's figured it out. Like he's not making things too complicated.
Yep.
Yeah, he's not Dasan McCullough. Like Dasan McCullough was in, I think, right before Watson-Trent. And McCullough's 6'5", 235 pounds. Like he is the delusion that Watson-Trent has going on in his mind. And Marques, he doesn't even care. Like he's like, there's no reason that I can't tackle the guy who has the ball. Isn't that the point of the game?
Love it. That is awesome. Yeah. I think we probably talked about this maybe a little bit last week, specifically with Watson-Trent. I mean, I just don't care. I don't care that he's 5'11" or 5'10" or whatever they have him listed at on the roster. I go look at his stat page from Georgia Southern. I mean, that's it. The guy he tackles people in bunches, and that means he knows, especially as a linebacker. Maybe if you're playing offensive line or defensive line, it's like, whoa, this is probably not going to be good because he's going to match up against guys that are a foot taller than him or whatever it is. Obviously, you're not going to play offensive line at 5'11" or anything like that. But you know what I'm saying? Just comparatively on the size, I do not care as far as linebackers are concerned. If you find a way to get to the ball carrier and you have this, you have this anticipation and these instincts, you can't teach that. So his head's going to be on the ball, and I'm excited to watch him play.
Okay, final thing I wanted to mention in the show. We've been talking a lot during this podcast and often the way in the off season and during the week in season, we get our information is through these media availabilities, these press conferences. Did you see, Connor?
Yes.
This is really a hot button item. This is great for your show, for sports radio. Oklahoma is offering fans a chance to attend post-game news conferences, and they're charging. This is part of the Sooner Magic Memories program. So you can go to the Oklahoma-Michigan post-game press conference with Brent Venables and others for the low price of $692.11 on September 11th as a fan. And apparently you just sit in the back and don't cause a scene.
Yeah. So I understand that this could come off as like, oh, here's another media guy who, just doesn't want whatever the normal people around him or doesn't want to see how it goes. I just listen. I cannot emphasize this enough. If you're an Oklahoma fan or if anything ever happens like this at Nebraska, do not spend your money on this. I'm trying to help you. It's not because it's not my self-preservation about space or whatever at the press conference or anything like that, or secrets that anybody is hiding. I'm telling you that it is not worth your money. It is 100% not worth your money to go sit in a room with a bunch of reporters, ask questions, and then the people in the room leave. Like if you have a weird obsession with the people in the media, the people asking the questions, like maybe you could bump shoulders with them, and then maybe it's worth. I think they were auctioning this, and the bidding was starting at like $600 or something like that.
$692 for Oklahoma, Michigan, or you can go to Oklahoma, Auburn for $576. It's ridiculous.
Do not do this. Save your money. Spend your $700 on something that will help you out. Buy $700 worth of barbecue in Kansas City. Anything else, do not spend your money on this.
Watch it on YouTube.
Yes.
That was well said.
You get the same thing. Because I mean, you know this from this podcast. I hardly go to any of the press conferences anymore. I watch it on YouTube. Now, obviously, Mitch, you're like tied into it. So you miss a couple things from not being there, but you get the point, right? You can watch it. It's all there for you.
What you see is what you get. There's no great behind the scenes stuff going on at these things. So yeah, I would say this is a strange idea from Oklahoma, and I hope it does not become common in college football. Again, I agree with you. Not because we need that as sacred space, because it's not interesting and not worth your money.
There you go. Thank you. I think that's, once again, please believe us when we say this. We're trying to help you. That's it for us today. And we're counting down the days now until game number 1. Thanks for making Locked On Nebraska your first listen today. For your second listen, you can check out the Portal Show with Brian Smith. He's got you covered, whether it be on YouTube or anywhere else, wherever you get your podcasts.